Here are 5 awesome forgotten rules in D&D. The mark action. Okay, simple one to start. This one is badly named because it isn't technically an action. It's a free interaction that anyone can take when they hit an enemy creature with a melee weapon attack. When you slap that kobold with your axe, you can also mark them, basically focusing on them, preparing to spank them again. Until the end of your next turn, any opportunity attack made against that target has advantage. Pretty good for some more reliable damage if they try and run away, but the really cool part is that opportunity attack does not cost your reaction. This basically gives you an extra reaction, which is amazing for melee spellcasting classes. Eldritch Knights, Blade Singers, Hexblade Warlocks, you can mark your enemies with your attacks, slap them on the butts if they try to run, and still have your reaction to cast Counterspell or the Shield spell. But every melee-focused build can use the mark action for more powerful opportunity attacks. There's only one limitation, and that is if you do mark an enemy, you can only take one opportunity attack per turn. So you can't opportunity attack the same creature twice on the turn it runs away, or anything weird. But you can still opportunity attack twice on different turns in a round, if you marked several creatures on your turn. This is a fun and simple rule that makes martial characters a little stronger, spellcasting martials a lot stronger, and encourages attacking multiple enemies on your turn when you can. It also makes the disengage action an actual worthwhile choice to make in combat. Crafting. I need to make a whole video about crafting, but suffice to say, it's awesome. There are basic crafting rules in the DMG, another set of rules in the PHB, and a whole nother set of rules in Xanathars. The DMG crafting system is based on item rarity. Players need to get access to a magic formula to craft anything, which the DM can hand out at the end of a quest. Depending on the rarity of the item, it costs more gold to make, and players need to spend one full working day on an item to make 25 gold's worth of progress towards finishing it. A common item costs 100 gold pieces, so crafting one takes 4 full days. An uncommon item costs 500 gold, and so takes 20 days. This system is cool because it allows for teamwork. If 4 people work on an item, it is crafted in 1/4 of the time, so the party can whip up an uncommon item in 5 days. The downside is it's kinda busted. The rarity system in D&D is terrible, and although there are level restrictions placed on this system in the rules, getting a wand of magic missiles at level 3 is kinda crazy. Worse still though, only spellcasters can craft magic items with this system, and tool proficiencies don't matter. So it's restrictive and misses out on a huge opportunity to make proficiencies actually do something. But if you're careful with the magic item formulas you actually hand out to your players, it's a workable system for crafting low-level magic items in your game. But the Xanathars system is better, in my opinion. To craft anything, you need the right tools proficiencies, which makes tool proficiency choice actually important. It's up to the GM to decide what tools are required, but for example, you could craft leather armor with leatherworkers' tools, or plate mail with smith's tools. Magic items require exotic ingredients and a magic formula, basically requiring 2 quests from the party to even make one. One to gather information, and then one to gather the resources. This is awesome because it builds into your games and gives the players a reason to go adventuring. Here's a table that gives you a rough guide to the CR of the creature necessary to craft a magic item. Then the players can spend time and gold actually crafting that item using this handy little table. Of course, there's more to crafting and other systems out there, but including these systems can bring a lot to your games and give players a little bit of agency in the magic items they get. Plus, who doesn't want to make their own Tarask fluffy slippers? Come on.
And with that, you slay the dragon and get access to the horde.
Yes!
Yeah! You get a bag of holding.
Oh, gee. Thanks.
You get a +1 longsword.
Wow! This is cumbersome!
And you get your very own rat familiar.
There has got to be a better way. So I just have to feed this rat now, in real life, for my fantasy D&D character.
Well, if you can think of a better way to give out magic items, I'm all ears.
Grab the ultimate magic item card pack from Aventir Games. Beautifully illustrated card handouts for every magic item in the 5e SRD to use in your games and hand out to your players as an awesome game piece to make treasure feel like treasure. Each item card also includes the object's full description, so no more flicking through the DMG or taking a sneaky look online to remember how far you can fly with winged boots, or just how screwed you are when you combine 2 bags of holding. Grab your deck of over 300 5e magic item cards to make D&D easier, smoother, and much more immersive for everyone at an incredible value from Aventier Games. Out now on Kickstarter, link below. Cleaving rules. Okay, those crafting rules were kind of complicated. Let's have a simple one. Cleaving rules kick ass for speeding up combat. If you've ever played Magic the Gathering, this is a lot like Trample in that game. Basically, when a melee attack reduces a creature to 0 hit points, any excess damage is carried over to another creature nearby. The attacker targets a second creature within reach, and if their initial attack roll could hit that creature too, any extra damage is carried over. And if that extra damage kills that creature, you can just keep going, theoretically beating down multiple enemies in one blow. One of the problems with D&D is there is a ton of wasted damage. It sucks to score a critical hit on a creature with only 1 hit point because it didn't really matter. This rule makes that damage matter. It upgrades melee attackers and it encourages players to charge right into the fray, surrounding themselves with enemies. Most importantly though, it is so easy to implement. I'm sick of optional rules to buff martial characters that boil down to them rolling a million extra dice and taking ages on their turn. None of that here. It is fast. There are no extra dice rolled. It basically just happens on its own. And it really speeds up combat when you're fighting groups of weaker enemies. This is one that I think really has no downside at all. It's in the DMG for a reason. Use it. Healing Surge. Here's another quickie but a goodie. Healing Surge takes an action to use and lets you expend up to half of your total hit dice. For each hit die you expend, you roll the dice, add your Constitution modifier, and you regain that many hit points. Here's a neat part. You can choose to spend another hit dice after each one you roll, so you'll never waste hit dice producing more hit points than you need. Downside is you can only do this once per short rest, but the interesting thing is this changes how your hit dice are recovered. When you use this rule, all your hit dice are recovered at the end of a long rest, and when you make a short rest, you recover an amount of hit dice equal to 1/4 of your character's level, rounded down. Minimum of 1. This is legit a great rule to introduce to parties who don't have a dedicated healer, like a cleric or a druid. I also like it because it lets players keep themselves healthy. They don't need to beg the cleric to take a turn off to slap them with a cure wounds. And it's also pretty decent healing. A level 4 barbarian can regain 2d12 plus 8 hit points from one action. Most D&D games never use hit dice at all. It's practically a lost mechanic at some tables, so this feature makes them actually relevant. And finally, if you're a sorcerer with a Bloodwell Vial, you can use this feature to regain 5 sorcery points at the cost of just 1 action. I mean, you know, check with your DM first, but that is, rules as written, a totally allowed combo. And it's very strong. Tasha's optional class features. Tasha's was one of the last D&D books that I think we could really call great, and a huge part of that was introducing a bunch of optional rules to upgrade classes that just made sense. Here's my favorite choices to chuck right into your games. Primal Knowledge is an optional barbarian feature that nets you an extra skill proficiency at levels 3 and 10. Barbarians are often accused of being no good at anything other than fighting. This feature gives you a little bit of game outside of battle. Insight and Perception are great choices. Harness Divine Power is a wickedly useful cleric and paladin feature, letting you trade a use of your channel divinity to regain 1 spell slot equal to half your proficiency bonus round up. Some channel divinity options are pretty situational, so this means there's always an option for you to use. It always sucks having a useless resource, and this solves that problem. For druids out there, you get Wild Companion. From level 2, you can expend a use of your wild shape to cast the spell Find Familiar without material components. It only lasts a few hours, but still, it's a flavorful feature that just makes sense and that all druids should have access to. Sorcerers can grab Magical Guidance. From level 5, you can spend 1 sorcery point to re-roll any ability check. It only works once per roll, but still, that is some amazing reliability for when you really need to pull off that deception check. And monks get my personal favorite, Dedicated Weapon. From level 2, you can put your hand on any weapon that lacks the special or two-handed properties, and boom, it becomes a monk weapon for you. This means it deals damage with your martial arts dice, and if you ever hit someone with it, you can bonk them again as a bonus action unarmed strike. Monks with guns. It's a thing. Or monks with anything you're proficient with, really. The best option here is the longsword, obviously, if you pick a race or a feat that gets you proficiency with it. Dwarves, Gith, and Gith are all great options for monks, giving you those extra weapon proficiencies to abuse with this feature. Another favorite of mine is Back to the Barbarians with with Instinctive Pounce. This just means that from level 7, when you rage, you can also pounce up to half your movement speed. It's a nice way to get where the action is, and a fun image for a barbarian to suddenly scream and then yeet themselves 20 feet through the air towards an unsuspecting merchant. This month's issue of the DM Secret Weapon features the Path of the Wild Barbarian, a grappling, shoveling, nudist god of close quarters combat. You can grab that plus hundreds of pages of maps, adventures, new subclasses, new races, and tons more on Patreon, link up here and also down there. Remember to like and subscribe, check out other videos on the channel, and yeah, that's all I got. See you next time.